Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are taking you right into the heart of Washington, D.C. But we're focusing our lens not on, the White House or Congress, but on the intellectual engine that really feeds them both. We're doing a deep dive into Georgetown University.
That's right. And when most people hear Georgetown, they instantly think of politics, right? They think of the historic neighborhood, maybe the iconic Healy Hall architecture. They see this pipeline to power. But what they might be missing is the profound and, often very contradictory identity of this institution.
So our mission today is to go far beyond the glossy brochures, beyond the standard rankings. We're going to unpack the complexity of Georgetown, the oldest Catholic institution in the U.S., founded by Jesuits, yet it operates as this hyper-secular, politically charged global research powerhouse. And yes, an institution whose survival, its historical survival, was directly tied to the horrific business of slavery.
Right. And the central tension we really want to explore for you, the listener, is this. How does a foundation built on faith, on resilience, and, frankly, on historical compromise, how does that coexist with the demands of 21st century global influence and, modern activism? We promise an aha moment here that tracks the university's story from 18th century clandestine education right through the Civil War and up to its explosive modern expansion, with campuses stretching from D.C. to Doha, Qatar, and now Jakarta, Indonesia.
Okay, so let's start with the basics, the essential facts that form the bedrock of what they call the Hoya identity. What defines this place?
Well, officially, Georgetown is a private Jesuit research university, and it carries the highest designation for research activity in the U.S. It's called R1, doctoral universities. Very high research activity.
And that R1 status, just to be clear, that's a huge deal, right? It means they aren't just teaching, they're actively generating massive amounts of new knowledge across so many fields.
Absolutely. And its pedigree is, by American standards, ancient. It was established way back on January 23rd, 1789. So that makes it a venerable 236 years old.
And the founder was Bishop John Carroll, who was, he was the man appointed as the first head of the Catholic Church in the newly formed United States.
Exactly. And that founding wasn't just significant for its religious role. Critically, Georgetown holds this dual distinction. It's the oldest Catholic institution of higher education in the U.S. and the nation's first federally chartered university.
The first. So that federal charter, that was signed by President James Madison in 1815. So that officially gave it the right to confer degrees. That structural connection to the federal government is literally woven into its founding legal DNA.
It is. And the university motto seems to perfectly capture this inherent duality, this tension that defines its whole history. It's Latin, of course, utraque unum.
Utraque unum, which means?
It means simply both into one. It's the perfect phrase for an institution that is constantly having to reconcile these warring concepts. Faith and politics, tradition and radical modernity, North and South during the Civil War. And today, I'd say global wealth and Jesuit ideals. We're going to come back to this idea again and again.
So the scale of the university today, it just reflects this immense ambition. Just look at the finances and the scope.
The institution has a really robust endowment. As of recent data, it sits near $4 billion. To be specific, $3.95 billion as of 2025. And this financial muscle supports a massive internationally focused student body.
Huge. The total enrollment is over 20,000 students, and that's split between 7,833 undergraduates and 12,198 postgraduates.
So it's heavily weighted toward grad students, and it's truly a global magnet. It draws students from over 135 countries worldwide. This is not a regional college. This is a global platform.
Okay, let's unpack this history, because the story of Georgetown's founding is it's so much more complex than just a simple date. It's a story of resilience, really, born from suppression.
It really is. It starts in the 17th century. The Jesuit settlers, they originally founded the province of Maryland back in 1634. And they established a religious and educational presence pretty much right away. But that presence, it came under immediate threat.
So the moment the Royalists were defeated in the English Civil War, that was 1646, these really stringent laws came into effect. The penal laws, they forced Jesuits to conduct Catholic education, which was, crucial to their mission, entirely in secret, clandestinely.
And you have to think about that context. For over a century, Catholic education couldn't operate openly in Maryland. They had to teach in secret, passing on knowledge and faith away from the gaze of the authorities. The official establishment of Georgetown was a direct result of the American Revolution finally granting religious freedom and allowing John Carroll to organize the Catholic Church openly.
And Carroll was he was relentless. Even though the worldwide papal suppression of the Jesuit order was still active during the late 18th century, he just pushed forward. He saw the need for a Catholic institution that could thrive in this new republic. So he finalized the property purchase right there in the Georgetown neighborhood in January 1789.
And the precision of the records for that era is just amazing. We know that instruction began officially on January 2nd, 1792, and the first recorded student was a young man named William Gaston, who enrolled on November 22nd, 1791. But these early days, they cemented the foundation, but the college almost immediately ran into serious financial trouble.
And that 19th century was just marked by incredible stress. I mean, massive challenges directly related to the new nation's growing pains, especially the financial instability.
That's absolutely right. The school was constantly under considerable financial strain in those early years. It relied heavily on private funding and, whatever limited profits they could squeeze out of the lands that had been donated to the Jesuit community. And this perpetual financial pressure, this is what led to what is arguably the most morally fraught event in Georgetown's history, the 1838 slave sale.
Right, and this detail is so crucial for understanding the history of the university's survival. In 1838, the Maryland Jesuits, who were responsible for funding Georgetown and other regional schools, they conducted this mass sale.
A mass sale. The sale involved roughly 272 enslaved people, men, women, and children. And the transaction sent them down to two Deep South plantations in Maringouin, Louisiana. This sale, it raised desperately needed capital funds that were necessary for the survival and expansion of the young college. And this act, it simultaneously ended the Jesuit order's slaveholding in Maryland, but only by consigning hundreds of people to the brutal conditions of Deep South plantation slavery.
It's a haunting, dark legacy. And it's one the university is still actively grappling with today through reconciliation efforts and, dialogue with descendants.
Yes. And then, less than 2 decades after that, that morally catastrophic event, the Civil War, erupts. And it tears the nation and the student body completely apart. The impact on the hilltop was immediate and just enormous.
The numbers are staggering for a college of that size at the time. 1,141 students and alumni enlisted on both sides of the conflict, Union and Confederates.
And the war didn't just affect the alumni. It physically came to the campus. The Union Army actually commandeered several university buildings. They used them as temporary quarters for troops positioned to defend Washington, D.C.
Well, you had the most powerful man in the country visiting.
Yeah.
President Abraham Lincoln himself visited the campus in May of 1861 and found 1,400 troops living there. That must have just fundamentally altered the atmosphere and the entire operation of the college overnight.
Oh, it did. The loss of life and the general disruption, it meant that after the war, enrollment just plummeted severely. In 1869, only 7 students graduated. 7.
Compare that to over 300 students graduating annually in the decade before that. It was truly a crisis of survival, and the school needed to heal.
And the method they chose to symbolize that healing, it speaks directly back to that motto we mentioned, utraque unum, oath into one.
Yes. In 1876, in this incredibly symbolic gesture, the Georgetown College Boat Club, the rowing team, adopted the school colors, blue representing the Union and gray representing the Confederacy. It was an explicit physical representation of trying to forge some kind of peaceful coexistence among students who had fought and suffered on opposite sides of the deadliest conflict in U.S. history.
So the post-war recovery, however, it's inseparable from the man often called the second founder, Patrick Francis Healy. And his story is one of the most compelling and complex in American higher education.
It really is. Healy served as president from 1873 to 1881, and he truly rescued the school from that post-Civil War slump. He's the one who transitioned it from a small, struggling college into a modern university structure. But what stands out, and what requires us to just pause and reflect, is his personal history. Healy was born enslaved by law in Athens, Georgia in 1834. His father was a white Irish immigrant plantation owner, and his mother was a mixed-race slave. So though he was of African descent by ancestry, he was educated abroad, and he identified fully as Irish Catholic. And he was, accepted as white in Catholic and European society at the time.
That identity is just a profound contradiction woven right into the fabric of the university. Here you have a man born into the brutal reality of Southern slavery, the very system that partially funded the early college. And he went on to become the first person of African descent to head a predominantly white American university. Even if that identity was suppressed or, unacknowledged by the public at the time, this transformation from property to proprietor in one generation, it just speaks volumes about the incredible contradictions embedded in Georgetown's founding story.
And his legacy is physical, too. He wasn't just a figurehead. he actively and fundamentally reformed the entire institution. He's credited with completely overhauling the undergraduate curriculum, significantly lengthening the medical and law programs to meet modern professional standards, and formally establishing the Alumni Association.
And of course, the most visible testament to his vision is Healy Hall. He oversaw the construction of that massive neo-medieval Gothic structure between 1877 and 1879. That building defines the campus skyline today. It is the physical representation of his ambition to elevate Georgetown from a regional college to a major national university. That title, second founder, is entirely warranted. He brought the institution into the modern academic era.
So that foundation of resilience and ambition, it really set the stage for Georgetown's development into the complex academic structure it is today. Right now, it's composed of 11 undergraduate and graduate schools, all highly specialized, particularly in areas relevant to D.C. life.
Right, you see this natural evolution that's tied directly to the city. The College of Arts and Sciences, established in 1789, that's the historical core. But very quickly, professional schools followed the growth of the nation. The School of Medicine in 1851, the Law Center in 1870, and the university has also adapted by dissolving schools that were no longer as relevant to its mission, like dentistry, which closed in 1990, and languages and linguistics, which dissolved in 1994.
But the school that truly defined Georgetown's global reputation, the one that makes it synonymous with diplomacy, has to be the Walsh School of Foreign Service, the SFS.
Oh, the SFS was a massive game changer. It was founded in 1919 by Edmund A. Walsh. And think about the timing there. 1919, right after World War I, the U.S. was shifting from an isolationist power to an emerging global superpower. And Walsh explicitly founded the school to prepare students for leadership roles in diplomacy and foreign commerce. It immediately tied the university's academic mission to the critical needs of the federal government and international affairs.
And they continued to structure their offerings to meet the capital's needs. The business program, which began as part of the SFS, it eventually separated in 1957, and that became the McDonough School of Business, or MSB, in 1998.
And on a separate note about academic evolution, it's interesting to look at the gender changes. The university didn't become fully coeducational until the College of Arts and Sciences admitted female students during the 1969-1970 academic year. However, the professional schools often led the way. The School of Nursing, for example, had admitted women since its founding in 1903, which really reflects a trend across many older, formerly all-male institutions.
So we've established this as an elite-focused institution. But just how difficult is it to get into this highly selective machine?
It is extremely difficult. U.S. News & World Report consistently deems Georgetown most selective. And the undergraduate data for the class of 2025 gives us a very clear picture. They received 27,650 applications and only admitted 11.7% of those applicants.
Wow. Let's put those numbers in context for you, the listener. That means for every 9 students who apply, only 1 gets in. And the students who are accepted are statistically at the very, very top of their classes.
Precisely. 87% of admitted students were in the top 10% of their high school class. And if we look at standardized testing, the mid-50% range for the SAT evidence-based reading and writing was 700 to 700 die. For math, it was 690 to 780. These metrics place Georgetown firmly in competition with the most prestigious academic institutions in the United States.
And the selectivity doesn't ease up at the graduate level. In fact, it seems to tighten.
Oh, it tightens. The graduate schools are hyper-selective, particularly the medical school, which reported an astonishing 2.8% acceptance rate. The Law Center, a top-tier school, admits only 12.9%. Even the Master of Science in Foreign Service program, the MSFS, sits at a 25% admit rate. These numbers, they just underscore the institution's desire not just for intelligence, but for demonstrated excellence in very focused fields.
And the rankings reflect that intense focus on specialization. They aren't just generally good, they are world-leading in certain areas.
In international affairs, the SFS is peerless. Their international relations master's and bachelor's programs were ranked first in the world in 2024 by Foreign Policy. I mean, if you are seeking to train for global leadership, this is the gold standard.
And on the legal side, the Law Center is highly ranked, 14th overall in the U.S., but its real strength is in these specific subfields.
Exactly. It ranks first in clinical training and part-time law, second in tax law, and third in international law. This focus on clinical training in particular means that students are not just learning theory, they're actively engaging with real-world legal practice right next door to the Supreme Court and all the federal agencies.
And we also can't overlook the McDonough School of Business. The MSB undergraduate program was ranked third in the country by Poets and Quants in 2024. The academic power here is focused, it's sharp, and it's consistently top tier in policy, law, and business.
So, shifting to that R1 research status we mentioned, it's not just about prestige, it's about generating crucial breakthroughs. What are the research priorities that define this output?
Well, the priorities align perfectly with the Jesuit tradition and the DC environment. Religion and ethics, public policy and science, with a really notable focus on cancer medicine. For example, the Lombardi Comprehensive Cancer Center is famous for pioneering work.
Yes, the Lombardi Center. They developed the breakthrough HPV vaccine for cervical cancer, which has had a monumental global health impact. They also pioneered the conditionally reprogrammed cells, or CRC technology, which is a massive step forward in cancer research. In 2019, the university's research spending exceeded $240 million, with a large component coming from federal funding, that reciprocal relationship with the government again.
And here's where the global ambition goes physical, this expansion across continents. Georgetown has aggressively moved beyond the hilltop, establishing campuses to project its influence abroad, especially with the SFS Qatar campus.
The Qatar campus is fascinating. It opened in Education City in Doha in 2005. And crucially, it offers the exact same Bachelor of Science in Foreign Service, the BSFS degree, as the DC campus. It also hosts the Center for International and Regional Studies, or CIRs. This expansion was really driven by the Qatar Foundation, and it cemented Georgetown's status as a major player in Middle Eastern academic and policy circles.
And the expansion hasn't stopped there. In January 2025, the university launched the SFS Asia-Pacific campus in Jakarta, Indonesia. This is clearly a strategy to extend their diplomatic training directly to the future policymakers of one of the world's most dynamic and critical regions.
And they also have other facilities supporting their global student body. There's Villa La Balls in Fiesole, Italy, which serves as this stunning study abroad center focused on Italian culture, and the McGee Center for Eastern Mediterranean Studies in Alanya, Turkey. It's a truly enormous international footprint that very few other American universities can match.
But this global reach is not cheap, and when we discuss global politics, you have to follow the money trail. We have to talk about foreign funding.
This is a critical detail in understanding Georgetown's financial structure and, really, its global entanglements. Our sources show that between 2012 and 2018, Georgetown received a massive influx of over $350 million from Gulf Cooperation Council countries. That's Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and the UAE.
So hundreds of millions of dollars flowing directly from foreign governments and ruling families into the university's operations and specific schools.
Yes. And we can point to a specific high-profile example. The 2005 gift of $20 million from Prince Al-Walid bin Talal bin Abdulaziz Al Saud, a member of the Saudi royal family. This was the second largest donation to the university at the time, and it was designated to expand the activities of the Prince Al-Walid bin Talal Center for Muslim-Christian Understanding. These funds, they tie the university directly to powerful international governmental interests, which, must inherently affect the geopolitical discourse conducted within the walls of SFS.
So we've established that Georgetown is this complex machine of global politics, finance, and elite academics. Now let's dive into the profound internal conflict, the core tension that makes the institution so fascinating. This is where that Utraque Unum motto truly comes to life.
It really is. Georgetown constantly attempts to balance its devout religious identity, rooted in the 18th century, with the demands of its highly secular, politically liberal 21st century clientele in the nation's capital.
Let's start with that Jesuit foundation.
Yeah.
The university was founded in the tradition of Ignatius of Loyola, and it remains a key member of the Association of Jesuit Colleges and Universities. That history isn't just a plaque on a wall, it's structural.
It's deeply structural. That Catholic presence ensures continuity. There are 52 members of the Society of Jesus who live on campus, working as professors or administrators. But most importantly, 7 Jesuits serve on the 36-member board of directors. That's the body responsible for setting the direction and policy of the university. So this guarantees that the core Jesuit ethos remains part of the institutional decision-making framework.
But the administration also, at the same time, promotes this radical religious pluralism. something few other historical Catholic institutions have matched.
Absolutely. And this commitment is institutionalized through entities like the Berkeley Center for Religion, Peace, and World Affairs, founded in 2006, and also the annual Building Bridges seminar, which started back in 2001. These initiatives bring together religious leaders from around the globe to foster interfaith understanding.
This emphasis on diversity is a necessity, really, given the student demographics. According to 2009 data, only 41% of students identify as Catholic, with another 22% identifying as Protestant. So the majority of the student body is either secular or belongs to other faiths.
And Georgetown has shown a clear commitment to serving these diverse spiritual needs. It employs a full-time rabbi, serving a Jewish student population that's approximately 6.5% of undergraduates.
But what's truly pioneering is their outreach to the Muslim community. Georgetown was the first U.S. college to hire a full-time imam, serving over 400 Muslim students on campus. And in 2014, they continued this path by appointing their first Hindu priest. This is a clear statement that while the university is Catholic, its mission is one of spiritual pluralism.
However, this core Catholic identity, it inevitably creates these flashpoints when it collides with modern, secular, social, and moral norms. These are the moments that truly test that utraque unum balance.
We can trace this conflict back to the physical campus itself with the crucifix debate.
Yeah.
Between 1996 and 1999, the administration made the decision to add crucifixes to many classroom walls. Previously, they had only been found in the historic parts of the campus or the hospital.
And this action, which seemed like a simple affirmation of Catholic identity, it attracted significant national media attention and provoked an intense internal debate. What's truly fascinating is the cross-cultural element. In 2004, when external groups pressured the university to remove the crucifixes, the school's full-time Muslim cleric, Imam Yahya Hendi, actually publicly defended their placement.
Really?
Yes, he argued that the symbol affirmed the spiritual nature of the campus, which is just a powerful demonstration of interfaith solidarity.
So the deeper policy tension, that focuses on moral issues. For instance, the university maintains these strict policies that align with Catholic teaching. University-owned buildings are prohibited from selling or distributing birth control products.
Right. Furthermore, the Georgetown University Hospital, though it's operated by MedStar Health, is prohibited from performing abortions. Yet, there's a nuance even here. As of 2004, the hospital is permitted to perform embryonic stem cell research, showing that the ethical lines the university draws are precise and often negotiated.
And we see this duality played out so powerfully in student life. Annually, the university hosts the Cardinal O'Connor Conference on Life, which is the largest student-organized pro-life conference in the entire country. That is a massive event affirming Catholic teaching.
Yet, coexisting with this, you have the pro-abortion rights group, Ages for Choice. And this group is not officially recognized by the university. That's why they need the asterisk in their name, because their platform directly conflicts with official university policy. However, the university permits them to meet and set up tables on campus. This is that delicate legal and moral framework in action, upholding the religious foundation while still guaranteeing freedom of expression.
This tension, it often spills over when high-profile political figures are invited to campus, particularly in D.C. The university faced strong criticism from conservative religious groups in 2005 and 2012 for hosting prominent pro-abortion rights speakers, like then-Senator John Kerry, President Barack Obama, and Health and Human Services Secretary Kathleen Sebelius.
And there was also that infamous incident in 2009. Before President Obama's speech on campus, the administration covered up the name of Jesus, which was inscribed on a wall so as not to appear to be using a sacred space for a political event. And this seemingly minor decision brought the entire conflict over religious symbols and political neutrality right back into the national spotlight.
Social issues are equally charged. In 2013, religious groups strongly denounced the university for allowing gay-themed events, including one controversial performance where a male student, dressed in high heels and a blue cloak, performed a dance to Madonna's Like a Virgin, parodying the Virgin Mary.
Right. Yet, just a few years before, in 2010, Newsweek rated Georgetown among its top gay-friendly schools. These conflicts just illustrate that Georgetown is not a unified entity. It is a battleground where 18th-century Jesuit principles constantly meet 21st-century progressive politics. and the administration has to navigate this tension every single day.
Speaking of DC influence, let's look at the faculty that defines the institution's political leaning and intellectual output.
Well, while the faculty demographics skew predominantly male by a 2-to-1 margin, politically, the faculty is heavily liberal. We know this based on donation patterns, which show significant support for liberal candidates, notably contributing more than the average academic institution to the 2008 Barack Obama presidential campaign. So this means that students are receiving high-level political and policy education from a very engaged, largely liberal academic perspective, all housed within that formal conservative Catholic tradition.
But the real unique selling point of a Georgetown education is the roster of influence they attract. The faculty roster is just packed with people who have shaped history, former high-level officials who cycle through the university after public service.
It's policy taught by the actual practitioners. This list is a who's who of U.S. and global leadership. We're talking former secretaries of state like Madeleine Albright and Henry Kissinger, former CIA Director George Tenet, and National Security Advisor Anthony Lake.
And even the judicial branch is represented. Former Supreme Court Justices William J. Brennan Jr. and Antonin Scalia and current Chief Justice John Roberts have all spent time teaching there. The student experience is one of proximity to power. The theoretical is immediately grounded in the practical experience of the people who actually sat in the seats of power.
And this isn't limited to the U.S. The influence is decidedly global. They attract international figures like the former Prime Minister of Spain, José María Aznar, and the former President of Colombia, Álvaro Uribe. Georgetown is a revolving door for global political leadership, giving students unparalleled access to the people who shaped recent history and who are still defining international affairs today.
Now let's move to the physical reality of being a Hoya, a student living and studying right in D.C. The main campus is appropriately nicknamed the Hilltop, a beautifully organized 104 acres overlooking the Potomac River.
And the campus has a very distinct architectural signature. It's dominated by collegiate Gothic and Georgian brick architecture styles, giving it that classic, revered university feel, a very deliberate nod to tradition.
And the crown jewel, the symbol of the university and Patrick Francis Healy's vision, has to be Healy Hall.
Oh, Healy Hall is a National Historic Landmark, built in that dramatic neo-medieval style between 1877 and 1879. It houses some of the most iconic spaces in the university, including Gaston Hall, which is known for hosting major lectures and ceremonies, and the gorgeous Riggs Library. It serves as the physical and intellectual anchor of the entire campus.
And while the historic center was Dahlgren Quadrangle, contemporary student life tends to gravitate around Red Square. Recent construction shows the university's commitment to modern science and student life, including Regents Hall for Science and the Healy Family Student Center, or HFSC, which is a massive 43,000 square feet, offering everything from study spaces and dance studios to the popular student pub, the Bulldog Tavern.
But it's essential to remember that the institution is spread across D.C. The Law Center campus is separate, situated right in the Capitol Hill neighborhood near Union Station. It consists of 5 buildings, including the sole on-campus dormitory, the Gewirtz Student Center.
Then you have the downtown campus, which houses the School of Continuing Studies, or SCS. This is a state-of-the-art 95,000 square foot building located in the vibrant Chinatown neighborhood, and it hosts specialized graduate programs like Applied Intelligence and Journalism.
And the location of the SCS is a very deliberate choice. It's focused on accessibility for working professionals. It boasts a perfect transit score of 100, meaning public transit access is effortless, and a walk score of 98. This shows a deep understanding of the needs of non-traditional, often already employed, graduate students in a major city.
Now, for one of the most remarkable and unique aspects of Georgetown culture, student self-governance and commerce. Georgetown hosts 2 of the nation's largest organizations run entirely by students.
This is truly unparalleled responsibility handed to undergraduates. First, you have Students of Georgetown, Inc., universally known as the Corps. Founded in 1972, they are an entirely student-owned and operated umbrella corporation.
And this is not a bake sale operation. The Corp operates multiple successful businesses. We're talking coffee shops, grocery stores, catering services, and the popular Hilltop salad store. They generate roughly $5 million in annual revenue, and the surpluses are channeled directly back into the student body through scholarships and philanthropy. It's high-stakes business run by young adults.
And then there's the financial muscle, the Georgetown University Alumni and Student Federal Credit Union, GUASFCU. It's the largest all-student-run credit union in the United States. They manage over $17 million in assets and serve 12,000 members. To have undergraduates running a fully functional multi-million-dollar federal credit union is just a testament to the trust placed in the Hoya student body.
And that tradition of student-led organizations extends to media, which acts as a powerful channel for the school's noted political activism.
Right. The Hoya is the oldest campus newspaper, published twice weekly since 1920, covering campus and city news. Then you have alternative voices like the Georgetown Voice, a popular news magazine. And for the real policy enthusiasts, the Georgetown Journal of International Affairs is the official SFS journal. It's peer-reviewed and published externally, a very high level of academic rigor.
And the political energy here is just palpable. The Princeton Review ranked Georgetown as having the second most politically active student body in the United States, and this energy is highly organized and effective.
Absolutely. Look at the groups that channel this activism. The Georgetown Solidarity Committee, for example, successfully campaigned for significant workers' rights. They pushed for pay raises for cleaning staff and police, and successfully ended the use of sweatshops for university apparel.
And this activism recently bore significant institutional fruit with the GU Fossil Free Group. They successfully advocated for the university to divest its entire endowment from fossil fuels, a campaign that resulted in the administration announcing full divestment in February 2020, a huge win for climate activism in higher education.
It just highlights that for a school that trains policymakers, the students are often the first to put policy into practice right on their own campus.
Before we move to athletics, there's a small detail on social life. Greek life is surprisingly low participation, about 10% of undergraduates. The university officially recognizes only one Greek organization, Alpha Phi Omega, which is purely focused on community service.
Right. Now let's get to the beloved and slightly bizarre nickname. Where did Hoyas come from?
The name originated sometime before 1893 from a mixed Greek and Latin chant, Hoya Soxa. It roughly translates to "what rocks" or "such rocks." The baseball team, which was known as the Stonewalls at the time, likely inspired the chant. The nickname just stuck. And by the 1920s, Hoyas was widely adopted, eventually replacing the older, slightly bland team name, the Hilltoppers.
And athletically, they are NCAA Division I, competing primarily in the Big East Conference for most sports, though football is in the Patriot League. They're a major name in college sports, particularly basketball.
Oh, yeah. Men's basketball won the NCAA championship in 1984 under John Thompson, and they hold the record for the most Big East Conference titles with 8. That legacy is part of the national consciousness.
But don't overlook the specialized teams. The sailing team has been incredibly dominant. They've won 14 national championships and 1 world championship in match racing since 2001. And men's soccer also claimed the NCAA title in 2019.
Finally, though, we have to note a modern shadow cast on the athletic department, the 2019 college admissions bribery scandal.
Right. The former tennis coach, Gordon "Gordy" Ernst, was implicated in this scandal. He was involved in facilitating the fraudulent admission of up to 12 students using fake athletic credentials while accepting up to $950,000 in bribes. He later pled guilty to bribery and tax charges. And this event just serves as a sharp reminder that even institutions rooted in public service ideals are susceptible to high-profile corruption when access and wealth converge. It was a failure of institutional oversight in an era of hyper-competitive college admissions.
Okay, let's bring this all together by examining the final output, the legacy and the influence of the alumni. Immediately after graduation, the numbers show a heavy focus on professional careers. About 73% of graduates enter the workforce right away.
And they are immediately highly compensated. The median starting salary sits at $87,100, which is extremely strong. And then the median mid-career salary is $179,300. Graduates coming out of the McDonough School of Business, the MSB, report the highest average starting salary, breaking the 6-figure mark at $100,859.
And where do they go? The professional pipeline is very clear. 40% of graduates start their careers in consulting or financial services. So this isn't just a political school, it's a financial powerhouse. Georgetown is consistently ranked among the top 10 alma maters reported by current Wall Street employees.
But the output of public service remains undeniable. Beyond the immediate paycheck, Georgetown is a powerhouse in producing global scholars. They are one of the nation's top producers of Fulbright scholars, with 565 historically, and they were ranked the #1 producer in 2020, 2021, 2023, and 2024.
And they're also consistently producing the next generation of leadership through other prestigious scholarships. Their alumni include 32 Rhodes Scholars, 46 Marshall Scholars, and 33 Truman Scholars. This just solidifies Georgetown's position in the highest echelon of U.S. academic institutions focused on creating public servants and global thought leaders.
And that intense academic rigor is channeled into one clear area: global political power. The two most popular undergraduate majors are consistently government and international relations.
Georgetown has really earned the title of diplomatic pipeline. It has educated more U.S. diplomats than any other university in the nation. At least 92 alumni have achieved the rank of U.S. ambassador. That statistic alone highlights the central role the SFS plays in American foreign policy.
And if we look at U.S. leadership alumni, the list is just staggering. You have two U.S. presidents, Bill Clinton, a 1968 SFS graduate, and Lyndon B. Johnson, who attended the Law Center, though he left without a degree.
Two Supreme Court justices, Antonin Scalia and Edward Douglas White, are alumni, alongside 116 members of Congress who have Georgetown ties.
And let's just name-check a few cabinet-level officials to bring this influence to life. Robert Gates, former Secretary of Defense, Jack Lew, former Secretary of the Treasury, and John F. Kelly, former White House Chief of Staff and Secretary of Homeland Security. The influence extends deep into the military as well.
Right. The Hoya Battalion, their Army ROTC unit, is the oldest military unit native to D.C. and was ranked the best in the country in 2012. Alumni include four-star generals like George W. Casey Jr. and Joseph Dunford, the former chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff.
And the international pipeline is equally impressive, completely fulfilling the mandate of the SFS. Our sources identify 12 graduates who have served as international royalty or heads of state. This includes King Felipe VI of Spain, King Abdullah II of Jordan, and José Manuel Barroso, who served as both Prime Minister of Portugal and President of the European Commission.
And beyond politics and military, the cultural impact is substantial, and it's often rooted right on campus. Alumnus William Peter Blatty won an Academy Award for the screenplay of The Exorcist, a novel famously set and partially filmed right there on the Georgetown campus, utilizing those dramatic Gothic visuals.
And that cinematic success continues, with 12-time Academy Award nominee Bradley Cooper and Jonathan Nolan, who's known for his writing on major films like Interstellar and The Dark Knight. The alumni also include Pulitzer Prize winners like Walter Pincus and Megan Twohey. Georgetown is consistently channeling its intellectual rigor toward influence in every major sphere: political, financial, media, and defense.
So this has been an incredibly detailed and, I think, necessary deep dive into Georgetown University. We've seen an institution that is exceptionally influential on global politics and diplomacy, but one that is constantly grappling with this profound internal friction, that tension of utraque unum.
That's the key takeaway. We've tracked the high-profile conflict between its conservative Catholic foundation and its increasingly liberal, activist, and secular campus culture. And we also confronted the historical complexities head-on, particularly the morally devastating 1838 slave sale and the complex, pioneering legacy of its mixed-race second founder, Patrick Francis Healy.
Georgetown has meticulously built itself as the essential training ground for the global elite, often situated literally blocks away from the State Department and the U.S. Capitol. Yet everything is, at least theoretically, framed by a 236-year-old Jesuit ethos of service to the common good.
And this leads us to our final provocative thought for you to consider, tying together the past and the present. Given Georgetown's explicit and unavoidable historical ties to slavery, a foundational injustice that was necessary for its early survival, and its ongoing reliance today on massive, high-profile global and government funding, including those hundreds of millions of dollars from Gulf nations. How does this deep connection to global power and wealth fundamentally influence its ability to maintain its founding Jesuit principles of social justice and service to the common good in the 21st century? It is a question of mission versus the necessity of modern geopolitical finance.
A perfect note to end on. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive.